My wife said, "I told your whole family you were having an affair with my best friend." I replied, "That is a very serious accusation." I waited until Sunday dinner at her parents' house. I played the voicemail of her confessing her own affair with my best friend, my brother. Adrian, 40, male, had been with Genevieve, 38, for 12 years, married for 9. Our life in Denver was a carefully curated exhibition of her social ambitions. We lived in a stunning glass-walled house in Cherry Creek North, a home filled with modern art and minimalist furniture that served as a backdrop for her frequent political fundraisers. I was a paleobotanist for a university museum, a quiet, academic career that earned me $90,000 a year. Genevieve was a senior strategist for a national political consulting firm, a high-stakes job that brought in $200,000 and placed her at the center of a world of power and influence. Our social life was a calendar of her campaign events, dinners at exclusive places like Guard and Grace, and weekends with our friends, a circle that included my younger brother, Ethan, who was also my best friend. Don't miss the twist. Subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. The opportunity that would ultimately change my life arrived on a crisp, clear morning. It was a formal offer letter from the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. They were creating a new, interdisciplinary research initiative focused on prehistoric ecosystems and climate change. They wanted me to be its first director. It was a monumental career leap. The offer included a base salary of $190,000, a significant research budget, and the chance to shape national scientific policy. I told Genevieve that evening, my voice filled with a passion I hadn't expressed in years. I described the project's importance, the chance to lead a world-class team, the vibrant intellectual life of DC. She listened with the polite, patient smile she usually reserved for my discussions of fossilized flora. "Washington?" she asked, a delicate frown forming. "It's so transactional, Adrian. It's a city of ambition, not ideas." She shook her head, her tone final. "My entire career is built on my network here. I'm on the verge of making partner. You can't expect me to trade that for a dusty government job." Update 1. I quietly accepted the Smithsonian's offer. Her dismissal of a role that represented the pinnacle of my career was a clarifying moment. My ambition was a footnote in the grand narrative of her life. She continued her campaign to frame my ambition as a form of retreat. Over cocktails with her friends, she sighed with performative sadness. "Adrian has this idea to take a job at a museum," she said. "He wants a quieter, less demanding life. I'm worried he's losing his professional drive." Her friends, who measured life in power and influence, offered their sympathies. "You need a partner who can keep up with you, Jen," one of them said. I offered no defense. I had already begun my own logistical preparations. I opened a new set of bank accounts. I spent my evenings researching historic townhouses in the Georgetown neighborhood of D.C. I also began to feel a strange, cold distance from my brother, Ethan. He was always busy, always canceling plans, and our conversations felt strained and superficial. He was her biggest supporter in her opposition to my move, which struck me as odd. He had always been my greatest champion. Update 2. I chose a Sunday morning to make my decision final. The house was quiet, filled with the sterile museum, like silence she had cultivated. "Genevieve, I've accepted the position in D.C. I stated. "I'm moving in 2 months." Her face, which had been relaxed as she scrolled through a political blog, hardened into a mask of disbelief. "You actually went through with it, after I told you how damaging it would be to our life?" "I did," I confirmed. "This is the most important work I could ever do." "Your work?" she scoffed. "And what about my life? What about the world I have built for us?" "The world you built for yourself," I corrected, my voice even. "I was just a resident." She stood up, her eyes blazing with a cold fire. "Then you can go have your dusty, provincial fantasy alone. You choose that, or you choose me. You don't get both." I thought of the growing distance between me and my own brother, a distance that seemed to emanate from her. The choice was the easiest I had ever made. "I choose my work," I answered. Update 3. A few days after our final confrontation, the ultimate betrayal was delivered to my phone. I had been out for a run, leaving my phone on the kitchen counter. When I returned, I had a single new voicemail. It was from Genevieve. She must have pocket-dialed me, thinking she was calling her best friend, Clara. The voicemail was a long, rambling, tearful confession. She was not talking to Clara. She was talking to my brother, Ethan. She spoke of their affair, how it had been going on for nearly a year, how she felt torn, how she had been trying to push me away so she could be with him. The words were a series of cold, sharp blades. When the voicemail ended, I saved the file to a secure, encrypted drive. The grief was a physical weight, but beneath it, a cold, clear resolve began to form. A week later, a text from her arrived. I told your whole family you were having an affair with my best friend, Clara. It read. The projection was breathtaking in its audacity. I replied with 5 simple words. That is a very serious accusation. The stage was set for the final act. Her parents, in a misguided attempt to mediate, insisted we all come for Sunday dinner. I agreed. I told them I would be bringing a guest. Update 4, the Sunday dinner was a masterpiece of tension. My family was there, their faces a mixture of confusion and hurt. Her family was there, their expressions a blend of pity and disappointment. Genevieve was the picture of the wronged wife, and Ethan, my brother, my best friend, could not meet my eyes. After the main course, her father stood to speak. He spoke of the sanctity of marriage, of the pain of betrayal, his words a clear indictment of me. When he finished, I remained standing. I agree, I said, my voice calm and clear. Betrayal is a terrible thing. I took out my phone and connected it to the small Bluetooth speaker I had brought with me. I believe there has been a misunderstanding, and I believe this will clear it up. I pressed play. The sound of Genevieve's voice filled the silent dining room, her tearful confession of her affair with my brother echoing off the walls. The silence that followed was absolute, a vacuum of shock and horror. My mother began to cry. Her father turned to her, his face a mask of disbelief. Genevieve, he whispered. What have you done? I disconnected my phone. I looked at my brother, whose face had crumpled in shame. I looked at the woman who had been my wife. Then I walked out of the house, leaving the ruins of 2 families behind me. Update 5, 6 months in Washington, D.C. was a period of quiet, focused healing. My work was my sanctuary. I had sold the house in Denver and used the proceeds to buy a beautiful, historic townhouse in Georgetown. The city's rich history and intellectual energy were a balm to my soul. My new initiative at the Smithsonian was a resounding success. Our first major research paper, on the impact of ancient climate change on North American megafauna, was published in a major scientific journal. The story was picked up by national news outlets, and I was interviewed on NPR. My name and my new title, Director of the Paleoecology Initiative, were now part of the national scientific conversation. One evening, I received an email from an old friend from Denver. Adrian, it read, we are so sorry. Genevieve had us all completely fooled. She told everyone that you had a breakdown, that you fabricated that voicemail after she caught you cheating. We finally heard the real story from her parents. I thought of her accusation, the lies she had used to try and destroy me. I told your whole family you were having an affair with my best friend. It was a desperate, final act of a woman drowning in her own deceit. I replied politely but kept my distance. Thank you for your email. I wish you well. Update 6. She appeared on my doorstep in Georgetown a month later. She had flown in unannounced, a desperate pilgrimage to the life she had so carelessly destroyed. She looked smaller, her usual confident energy replaced by a brittle, anxious uncertainty. Adrian, she began, her voice soft. I was wrong? About everything. What were you wrong about, Genevieve? I asked, my voice flat. I was lost, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I was so caught up in that world, I lost sight of what was real. But I've been in therapy. Ethan and I are over. I see now what a wonderful, meaningful life you have here. I can be the partner you deserve. I looked at her, and the memory of her voice on that voicemail, confessing her betrayal with my own brother, was as clear as the antique glass in my front door. You didn't just lie to me, Genevieve, I said. You tried to destroy my relationship with my own family with a lie to cover your own. There is no foundation to rebuild on. I was desperate. She insisted. No, I replied calmly. You were dishonest. There is no foundation to rebuild on. I stepped back inside. Goodbye, Genevieve. Update 7. Her rejection fueled a final, vindictive act. In our divorce proceedings, she attempted to sue me for defamation, claiming that my public playing of the voicemail had caused her irreparable emotional and professional harm. It was a pathetic, transparent legal maneuver. My lawyer was prepared. We argued that the voicemail, which she had accidentally sent to my phone, was my property, and that I had played it for the very families she had lied to in order to correct the false and damaging narrative she had created. The judge dismissed her claim in a single hearing, admonishing her for her brazen attempt to profit from her own infidelity. Update 8. A year passed. My work was my passion, and my life was full of a quiet, intellectual joy. I had been promoted to vice chair of the Natural History Museum. I was in a new, healthy relationship with a woman named Dr. Lena Hansen, a brilliant astrophysicist I had met at a Smithsonian event. Our connection was built on a shared sense of wonder and a deep, easy honesty. One evening, a final email from Genevieve arrived. She had lost her job, her reputation in the small world of political consulting in tatters. She had moved to a different city and was working a low-level job in public relations. "I built my life around a lie," she wrote, "and you showed everyone the truth. I am sorry for the pain I caused." I replied with a short, polite message. "I wish you peace." I blocked her email address. I had not spoken to my brother since that day. The wound was too deep, the betrayal too absolute. Final update: several months later, I was the guest of honor at a fundraiser for the National Science Foundation. After my speech, a distinguished older gentleman approached me. It was Genevieve's father. He shook my hand, his grip firm. "Adrian," he began, his voice heavy with a sincere regret, "I need to apologize. We were so caught up in Genevieve's world, in the image she projected, that we failed to see the truth." He shook his head. "That day at our house, what you did was a terrible, necessary thing. It was the only way to make us see." He looked at me, his eyes clear. "She told us you were having an affair. She tried to make you the villain to hide her own story." He sighed. "I am so sorry we didn't see it sooner." His words brought a quiet, final sense of resolution. I reflected on the lesson of the past 2 years. The most dangerous lies are the ones that are a mirror image of the truth. Genevieve accused me of the very betrayal she was committing, a desperate act of psychological projection. By simply playing her own words, in her own voice, I hadn't just exposed her affair. I had revealed the fundamental dishonesty at the core of her character. And in the quiet, profound, and sometimes painful work of uncovering the truth, I had finally found my peace.